Well, let's bring in our political panel right now. Susan Smith, former Liberal strategist, now principal and co-founder of Blue Sky Strategy Group. Cole Hogan is a conservative digital strategist, principal at GT. And George Soule is a former NDP Director of Communications, now principal at Syntax Strategic. Hello to the three of you.
Hello.
Although I feel like two of three I already saw yesterday. But you know, I want to pick up the conversation that we started yesterday, because there's all this talk of resignation for the Prime Minister, asking Justin Trudeau to step down. But is there actually time? Can he actually resign, trigger a leadership without also emboldening the other parties to try to trigger an early election, do you think, Susan?
He can if he prorogues Parliament, right? If Parliament isn't sitting and the Prime Minister can prorogue, there would be a window of time that you could make that happen.
It'd be pretty short, though, because proroguement's usually about 3 months for a leadership race.
Well, the Liberals need to do something. Like, there is a fixed election date, so they'd have to step up something quickly. But if the Americans can put another presidential candidate in place in 100 days, I think the Liberals should probably try to be nimble if they want to change the channel.
Cole, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they can prorogue, have a leadership race, you know, the duration of which being 3 months. I don't know what that looks like in terms of contenders, in terms of organization, and, you know, what interest groups rally behind which candidates and organize where for what purpose. You know, the Liberal Party memberships are free, so I'd be curious to see what that does in terms of organizing and watching the results of, you know, a weighted riding system and see how that happens there. But I don't think Trudeau's going anywhere. If yesterday didn't do any real damage or adjust his thinking in terms of what he needs to do to preserve his political career, he's given no previous indication that he's going anywhere. So what does yesterday really do? Bombshell, like, revelation in news, but I don't think it changes his mind frame in terms of his political willingness to fight.
Okay, I'll get you to quickly respond, because you were nodding your head there.
You know what, I thought maybe the Prime Minister would go. Then when Trump was elected, I thought, okay, the dust will settle and we'll tackle this Trump tariff thing. With Minister Freeland's move yesterday, I think the Prime Minister may have more pause than he's had before. I suspect he'll take a bit of time over the Christmas break. There'll be no rash moves between now and Christmas Day, which is his birthday. I think January is probably when you would see something happen. Okay,
hold that thought, because I'm going to ask everybody to build on that in a second. But, you know, what do you think in terms of triggering a resignation, a leadership race? Is that possible without the other parties moving in to try to kick them out in terms of an early election?
I mean, I think it is possible. They control the calendar, so prorogation is an obvious option. And I mean, prorogation can be, you know, a minute. It can be a longer period of time too. They can figure that out. Even without prorogation, the House doesn't sit again until the end of January anyway, so they could kind of delay some things and, you know, push off some votes if they wanted to. You know, when Martin took over from Chrystia, there wasn't a prorogation. Obviously, this is a very different scenario, but I think there is a way to do it. And I actually, you know, I agree with Susan that I don't think Justin Trudeau wants to leave, but as I was saying yesterday, I think once, you know, all these people that were too scared to speak up and organize in a real way, once you have someone like Chrystia Freeland out front, I think the momentum gets too hard to oppose.
Yeah, Chrystia Freeland in front. Very interesting that you say that, because if he were to resign, you would think Chrystia Freeland would be one of the more obvious leadership contenders.
There are open secrets in Ottawa for the folks who aren't in town. There are lots of people who've been organizing for a long time. Anita Anand, Melanie Joly, François-Philippe Champagne, Mark Carney. I thought Sean Fraser would have been in the mix there, but with him stepping aside, mind you, the Freeland thing was a bombshell for him too, derailed his story of the day. The big thing is, and this needs to be unpacked with the Freeland exercise as well. She's got a book that's being rushed out now. It was supposed to come out in February. It's coming out the 10th. Sound familiar, folks? Book's coming. What does that mean? François-Philippe Champagne's writing a book. There are lots of good contenders. I think there are campaigns that maybe perhaps aren't, organizations that aren't fully dormant. I don't know that you'd flip a switch and have an entirely staffed organization, but it wouldn't be that hard for people to stand up and get something going.
Okay, so a short list ready to go. But so, Cole, if Trudeau were to step aside, how do you see that rolling out, do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's an issue with getting to that point in the first place, right? There's nothing that the Liberal caucus can do to trigger this, so it's entirely Trudeau's decision as to whether or not he wants to go. You know, you can wait over the holidays. No one's going to make you do anything. Caucus certainly can't. There's no mechanism by which to trigger a leadership review or begin a leadership race. So, you know, you can take the holidays to think about it. Maybe in January you prorogue, give yourself a couple months, let the leadership race unfurl. Then they can have a couple months of governing and go into the fall, that is a prolonged mandate to take yourself forward for a new prime minister. And I think whoever that person is, if they are technically, they haven't been elected with a fresh mandate as a new prime minister, and Trudeau has, given them a landing pad in, I think they still wear the sins of Trudeau and still wear the reputation of, being associated with his time as prime minister.
Okay, George, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a challenge for anybody, but I do think it's possible. And I think, if you ask me personally, I'd prefer to become the leader of a 12-person Liberal caucus following the next election than the one that takes over for, admittedly, a sinking ship at this point and have to wear that election.
Just because it's a fresh start.
Yeah, exactly. You start fresh. It's your party. Sort of what Justin Trudeau did, right? I mean, he's definitely an exception to the rule generally as a politician and as a leader. But so I think there'd be some hesitance as far as taking over a party that's in so much trouble right now. But that said, there's no absence of ego among some of these people that are being considered. Even someone like Dominic LeBlanc, they could make an argument about taking on Donald Trump, for instance. I think there's lots of ways they could go. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible. And again, I think they get to control the calendar. So it's up to Trudeau to decide if he's stepping down, and then the Liberals to decide how they make it work.
Okay, so quickly running out of time, but is there any scenario where you can see Justin Trudeau staying until the next election and fighting it out, Susan?
I'm less inclined to feel that way. If you'd asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have said yes. I did say yes. I think he's hearing different things now. But you have to I think it's important to continue to look at who's saying what and what do they have in mind for their own ambition as they say the things they say.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, the voices for, Trudeau stepping down have probably reached more of a fever pitch than they have before. But I think the PMO and the inner circle is now getting smaller and more insular. Trudeau has thought previously, I'm the one that got everyone here. I'm the only guy that can take it to Polyev. Therefore, I need to be the one to run in the next election against him. I think he still thinks that.
Okay. George, what do you think? Any scenario where he stays?
I think for sure he thinks that. And I think that if there's a scenario where he does it, because that's right, he gets to decide, I think that is the end of the Liberal Party of Canada as we know it, at least. I don't see a scenario that it gives them any electoral hope. I think the only chance the Liberal Party has is to change leadership and then try to have a bit of a different perspective as they go to the next election.
Okay. Well, we are watching in the new year. Susan, Cole, George, thank you for this. And thank you for 2024. And everyone watching at home, thank you for 2024. That is Primetime Politics, the last one of the year. We will be back in the new year. Until then, have a very happy holiday, and we'll see you in 2025.